Daniel, I'll bring you in. Is there a historical precedent that we can look at to just inform us what this path ahead looks like?
I think for this kind of size, we haven't seen this. I think the last one is probably like, other than the latest one like HNA or those are kind of sizable but less complicated in a sense. The one is all the way, probably the last case all the way go back to the 2000 when Guangzhou ITIC did the liquidation.
Yeah.
It took more than 20 years actually. But I think for Evergrande's case, it's slightly different. I don't have the full information, but based on what I understand, the court order is at Evergrande level, the LISCO in Hong Kong. It's less about the onshore subsidiary. So we can look at it as a way that basically now offshore creditors are taking over the Hong Kong LISCO. So by doing that, you can avoid touching the onshore legal system. And based on what the liquidator comment, they try to keep the onshore operation intact. So meaning that instead of what we always think, okay, we do a liquidation, everything freeze. We can't stop, do a garage sale or whatever. But this time I think it's different. So they just freeze the holding company.
So if I can jump in here,
Go ahead.
Does that mean essentially the company in China will continue to operate as HNA did? The airline kept on running while it was going through a debt restructuring on the mainland behind the scenes. Does that mean essentially also that the central government will prioritize the completion of unfinished units so there's not some sort of social unrest as well? Because a complete collapse and liquidation on the mainland would be destabilizing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think exactly to your point. I think the key is to, for China, the purpose, I mean, the main thing is about project completion. If you do an onshore liquidation, everything will be kind of frozen. So now I think you just keep everything ongoing. Because if you look at Evergrande, ever since they defaulted, they still maintain their delivery. So probably, I think, I'm not sure about the figures, right? They deliver 80% of what they sold. So they still have like remaining 20%.
The market, Daniel, seems to be finding a floor. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, high-yield bonds, junk bonds are up 4 straight days. They've outperformed this year so far. We had a guest yesterday, Jenny Zhang, who said they're very active now trying to pick the survivors. That's really where you find alpha. Is this development from Evergrande? Is this a good thing? Is it almost the start of the closure to a painful chapter really for Chinese developers?
I would say the Evergrande case basically set a precedent. So if you look at the valuation of the bond, the Evergrande is quoting at 1 cent, 2 cents. How people come up with this number is very simple. I think if you look at Evergrande, they own 2 listed companies.
Right.
One is the EV, another one is a property management company. If you look at their market cap, I think the total amount based on the closing price is around like 4.5 billion Hong Kong dollar, compared with 22 billion US dollar of offshore debt. It's around 2 cents, something like that. That's a very rough way of pricing the bond.
Yeah.
And about your question of picking the survivors, I think it's very clear that after like Country Garden collapse, I think the Chinese government finally realized how serious the situation is going to be. So they have all these policy measures, but so far not that effective. But if you look at the bond price movement, largely reflected at that restructuring case, or for a lot of not that many developers, they are still around. So if you look at some of the financials, some of them are not that bad. I think people usually cut it in 2 ways. One is like SOE owned.
Yeah.
Another one is not SOE owned. But there are always like confusion, who is real SOE owned, who is not. So yeah, people try to figure that out. I think another way, as a fundamental like bottom-up analyst, I would also look at the numbers. So for example, like Wanky, people struggle, including myself, before whether it's SOE owned or non-SOE owned. But if you look at their fundamentals, the financials are good. And then later, the Xinjiang government came out and made comments. And then the major shareholders make comments. And then you revisit the numbers. Then, yeah, you realize the government tend to save those who are really able to help themselves. Yeah, I think that's kind of my understanding.
Okay, it seems that we do have at least more clarity.